In space, nobody can hear you scream. The reason why is because space is a vacuum. A sound wave is formed from vibrations in a solid, liquid, or gaseous matter. Without any of these, sound cannot exist. This has been commonly used by propagandists to try and debunk the arguments that the lunar module's engine should have produced a loud noise during descent. Although these propagandists agree that sound cannot exist in a vacuum, they do not dispute the fact that sound would exist through vibrations in the lens structure. This leads to conflicting statements made by the astronauts. We know that, according to Gene Cernan of Apollos 10 and 17, the ascent engine burns for 7 minutes and 14 seconds in order to get the crew back into lunar orbit.
For instance, our lunar module, when we lifted off the surface, had to burn for 7 minutes and 14 seconds. Not just light off, only one engine. We had redundant or backup valves, but only one engine, one set of propellant tanks. It had to light off and had to burn for 7 minutes and 14 seconds. If it quit earlier than 7 minutes and 7 seconds, we came back down to the moon, and there was no rescue.
Looking up the Apollo 11 transcript, we find that at 124 hours, 22 minutes, and 9 seconds into the flight, during lunar ascent, astronaut Buzz Aldrin describes the liftoff as a very quiet ride.
26, 36 feet per second up. 5 for the pitch over. Very smooth. Balance couple off. Very quiet ride. There's that one crater on there.
And yet, years later, when interviewed for the Discovery Channel documentary Destination Mars, Gene Cernan reported that the descent to the moon's surface on Apollo 17 was a loud ride.
On Apollo 17, astronaut Gene Cernan was thinking about the risks he was taking throughout the entire journey.
Stand by for touchdown. Stand by. 25 feet. Down at 2. Getting a little dust. Feels good.
There's a lot of excitement, a lot of things going on during the landing, a lot of noise, if you will, dust and things happening.
10 feet. Got contact. Stop push. Engine stop.
All of a sudden you get to the point where you touch down and you shut the engine down. At that point, it is perhaps the most quiet moment in the entire life of any human being everywhere, because it stops. The dust stops, the noise stops, the motion stops, and you just sit there and listen for hissing or tanks that are leaking or whatever.
Obviously, by the propagandist's admission, sound can only exist through vibrations in the lens structure. For there to be noise during the Apollo 17 lunar descent, the sound would have to travel through the structure of the descent module, then through the structure of the ascent module, before finally being transferred into the cabin atmosphere. If the engine was very loud during lunar descent, imagine how loud it would have been during lunar ascent. Especially considering that in the case of the latter, the vibrations wouldn't have had very far to travel, as the engine bell was built internally, positioning the astronauts directly in front of it. And the cockpit walls themselves were thin enough to be considered tin foil.
The skin on the crew cabin was very thin, and that was all done because of weight savings. Weight was a very critical item that always had to be considered in anything that you did.
If you really took your finger and poked hard at it, you could poke right through the outer skin of the spacecraft. It was about the thickness of 2 layers of aluminum foil. But it's the kind of thing that you were reasonably cautious that you didn't jab any pointed objects through.
If the lunar landing was an extremely loud ride, how could the lunar ascent possibly be a very quiet ride? It seems NASA's conflicting sound and space stories continue to this day.
5, 3 main engines up and burning, 2, 1, and liftoff of Space Shuttle Atlantis, opening a new chapter.
In September 2006, NASA launched Space Shuttle Atlantis on STS-115. For this mission, a camera was built into the left solid rocket booster. Here is the footage that NASA released.
We choose to go to the moon.
One small step for man, one giant leap
For America to take the next step.
Space Shuttle Discovery returning to the space station, paving the way for future missions beyond.